hello there, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Gary Steer, and I'm the Senior Vice President of Business Development here at AssistRx. Today, we'll be delivering our final installment of our webinar series. Over the course of these 4 webinars, we've addressed what life science, brand, and market access leaders need to consider in order to improve healthcare practitioner and patient engagement, raise program visibility with the ultimate goal of improving overall health outcomes. Today's webinar is part 4, taking action with cross-channel insights and powered by integrations. We'll discuss how to optimize your program performance with actionable insights from your channel partners. Now, if you missed either of our 3 prior webinars, feel free to view them on demand at our website by navigating to assistrx.com/events. So before we dive into today's discussion, I'll have Michael, my co-host, as well as Bridget Brennan, and today's moderator, Tara Stegman, introduce themselves. Michael.
Thanks, Gary. Welcome, everybody, to the 4th installment. My name is Michael Carr. I'm the Group Vice President of CoAssist, the newest division of AssistRx. I'm a pharmacist by training with 30 years of experience focusing on patients in hospital, home infusion, specialty, and manufacturer program pharmacy settings. Thanks for being here. Bridget?
Thank you, Michael and Gary. And hello, everyone. This is Bridget Brennan. I am the Senior Director of Marketing and Communications at AssistRx. Thank you for being here. You may remember my voice as I was the moderator for parts 1 through 3.
And hello, I'm Tara Stegman, Product Marketing Manager for Technology Solutions at AssistRx, and I'll be moderating the polls and Q&A today.
Great. Bridget will lead us off.
So speaking of polls and Q&A, before we start today's webinar, I want to orient you, our audience, to our Zoom meeting platform. So today we'll be using polls to collect and share valuable market insights with you. When the poll question pops up on your screen, please select from your choice or choices in the list. We'll share the results once everyone has had a chance to respond. Additionally, we welcome your questions throughout today's session. So to input a question, just click the Q&A tab. It's at the bottom of your Zoom window. Input your question and we'll answer all questions at the end. Now, for today's agenda, what we'll cover. First, a look under the hood, technology solutions to enhance speed to access and power insights. Next, we'll get into elements to consider when selecting between buzzworthy technology. Third, how business intelligence powers your program strategy. Next, best data practices for retail and specialty drugs. And finally, Q&A. So let's get started with our first topic of the day, a look under the hood, technology solutions to enhance speed to access and power insights. As evidenced throughout this webinar series, our industry is seeing more payer restrictions, more competition, and higher patient and provider expectations. We've also learned through this webinar series that brands are facing a gross to net squeeze, which results in tighter margins. And while there are several elements outside of a brand's control, there are resources that a brand can control to ensure the success of their program at the launch and throughout the brand's life cycle. To make the most out of these resources, brands need to optimize these controllable elements and be able to pivot rapidly to meet changing market dynamics. According to the poll results in our previous webinar sessions, it's quite clear that life sciences organizations are turning to technology to optimize their programs. However, there are a lot of lofty promises out there, and there are a lot of industry buzzwords. And those can even entice the most savvy brand and market access leaders to make suboptimal program component decisions to deliver on their program goals. The 3 most talked about technologies that we've seen out there as options for life sciences organizations are EBV, EMR triggered services, and EPA. But what do third-party patient support providers really mean when they allude to EBV, EMR triggered services, and EPA? Definitions of these terms can vary wildly depending on the source. Considering the immense impact these technologies can have on not just your program, but more importantly on your patients and HCPs, it's definitely worth it to take your time to look under the hood. Now, Gary, I'm sure you've run into these conversations with your partners, so why don't you give us the deets? Gary?
That sounds great, Bridget. Thank you very much. These technologies come in every conversation we have, day in and day out. And the easiest way to evaluate their impact is to understand how they contribute to your success and to meet the demands of both your HCPs and patients. So I got a question for you. Pretend you're a very busy HCP and you've got a choice between two products. And on average, you're only spending about the ability to spend 6 to 7 minutes per day with the patient. And of these two products that you're looking at, there's very little clinical differentiation in your mind. Now, one of these products has significant access hurdles that require multiple calls to follow up and to attempt to get that patient on therapy. The other, however, offers proactive ways and straightforward paths on patient affordability and options. So let me ask you, which would you choose? The answer is pretty obvious, right? So while we're here talking about the key elements required to build a winning market access strategy, and it really boils down into 3 key things. First, being able to accurately and immediately communicate your brand's estimated out-of-pocket cost for a specific patient at a specific point in time. Now, let's align on some industry terms here. Real-time pharmacy benefit. Typically, this refers to payer-centric messaging in the e-prescribing EMR systems that appear when certain brands are prescribed. The operative term is payer-centric. So if a payer or PBM is sponsoring this messaging, then what's the purpose, right? You guessed it. It's to persuade that HCP to switch their prescription to either a generic or to the PBM's preferred brand or therapeutic alternative. Said another way, to change the HCP's selected medicine based upon primarily on cost. Let's also talk about another element in here, and that's test claims. Payers authorize the use of test claims based upon the pharmacy's intent to dispense a medication for a specific patient. I'll repeat the key phrase, intent to dispense. It was never indicated to solely be, we need a price check on XYZ brand for Mrs. Green. So again, more to come on test claims in just a little bit. But we really want to highlight today our advanced benefit verification technology. It's intentionally not a commoditized EBV, and it's very different from both test claims as well as real-time pharmacy benefit. We have the industry's fastest, broadest, and deepest integrations with payers, PBMs, and other data sources to return brand, patient, and time-specific results for approximately 80% of payer-covered lives. AVV is not only provides both plan, but also patient-level PA data. And it also empowers HCP to access our real-time EPA solution. Leveraging integrations with leading EPA services partners and other payers and PBM connections, real-time EPA automates the PA process and processing time and takes it from days to minutes. This tool allows HCPs to prospectively and digitally complete a PA for the patient prescribed on their therapy by pre-populating only the relevant questions and response items based upon a combination of the product and the patient's insurance coverage. Further, real-time EPA also facilitates bi-directional communication in real time between the payer PBM and the HCP to improve the speed of the PA approval process. Let's talk about the second element of a access strategy, and that's being able to proactively guide the HCP through the payer approval process. The ideal solution is to have navigation within the EMR. You've heard that term time and time again, by triggering services that the prescriber can choose when they're in the workflow. Couple things to consider here. One, as you probably know, the e-prescribing and and EMR landscape is extremely fragmented and has very different user interfaces all across the board. Number two, if you're going to attempt to integrate in the EMR, these services expect to take months, if not years, to reach a large bolus of your target physician and a lot of capital. And lastly, in all the HCP market research that I have seen over the years, these types of triggered services really kind of suffer from low adoption. And the basic reason is this: when HCPs, those busy HCPs, are in their EMR e-prescribing systems, their basic instinct is to escape and not to explore and see what else is around there. One-off EPA providers are no better. In fact, typically these vendors only deliver just one step in the prescription journey, and that's just the prior authorization. Often the EPA solution that they offer is a digitized PA form that isn't specific to the patient or the product. The solution also doesn't offer real-time bidirectional communication between that HCP and the payer. This is why we've architected our real-time EPA solution to be triggered off an electronic prescription. One client saw a dramatic increase in both their overall prescription volume as well as the number of new prescribers by having these services triggered by an electronic prescription. Now, the third element to a market access strategy is being able to have actionable analytics. If something is not working in the first two elements, then you need to be able to have instant access to your aggregated performance data in order to pinpoint your issue or issues and quickly implement the necessary fixes in real time and ideally with minimal to no cost. Our actionable analytics are powered by integrations with our key stakeholders involved throughout the patient journey, such as pharmacies and maybe copay vendors.